Happy Sunday, man. It's how are things? How's it going?
Every day is Sunday.
Awesome. There you go. Oh. Is it usually generally pretty busy for you, or you try to relax a little bit on Sundays? Like, how is it, I guess?
Well, it's like the life we live. It doesn't really matter to me what day it is, So I usually don't actually know what day it is. So, like
Fair
not,
enough.
I know because I put it in my calendar that I'm going to talk to you on Sunday. But other than that, I would know.
It is all blends together, right?
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the life goal. You get off the clock and you try to get off the calendar, right? So it just doesn't matter. That's actually organic and natural. We Humanity locked itself into this time box, you know what I mean? And that's I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah, very well said, man. It's definitely definitely sounds like quite a time you have, whenever you can live it up the best of the abilities. Take every day as its own day, right? Everything's new every time.
Correct.
Yes, yes, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time so much, Zoltan. Like, just a little backstory. I mean, I've been a Five Finger Death Punch fan for quite a long time. As you can see, I got my shirt on here, one of the old school ones from, I want to say this is, I think, American Capitalist.
Yeah,
It's the war one.
that's right.
So, yeah,
Oh, that's even earlier.
earlier,
That's for
man.
his dancer.
Yes, yeah. So the first
Yeah.
song I heard was "Stranger Than Fiction." I want to say 2008ish. I was in middle school still, and became a big fan of you guys instantly. So it's very excited for me to get talked to you. And I had no idea though, like that was around the time I got into MMA at the same time. So I didn't know you were such,
Uh-huh.
a grappling guy yourself, obviously. So I got to start off with just knowing, like, when did you start, man? When did the combat sports journey begin for you in the first place?
So, I grew up in Europe. In Europe, martial arts are not really available to us. Like, I was a big kung fu fan. Everybody loved Bruce Lee, right? Everybody loves kung fu fighting.
Right.
The song says, right? And I was the guy that made my own like not nunchucks and smacked myself in the face and the throwing stars and all that crazy stuff, right? But but it wasn't available. What was available, however, was judo. Because judo is an Olympic sport. It was state sponsored, so there's a judo academy almost in every city, and definitely a couple of them in every major city, right? So around 9 years old, I joined the judo academy and I started training judo. And my whole life I was a grappler. So I trained as a judoka, and then maybe like 15 years ago, 16 years ago, I converted to jiu-jitsu. So now I got both. I got a black belt in both.
Yeah, good deal, man. Congrats on that. Of course, I've seen you got those.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is like the feeling like after putting in, take so much time, right, to get there? And I'm sure it's just like a little overwhelming. Can you describe it even?
Yeah, I mean, everybody says that it's really hard to get a black belt in, especially jiu-jitsu. It takes a long time, right? And I kind of repeated that phrase so many times. I always say like, yeah, man, a lot of hard work and dedication, and you have to just show up, and then eventually you get there. And then I'm thinking back, and I'm like, is that true? Was it really hard? And I'm like, actually, no. I have to go to do something I love doing with my friends that are my
Right.
close friends, right? I know it wasn't hard. I love going to jiu-jitsu. And I love training. I love all that. So, was it really hard? No, actually, it was a lot of fun. And the journey never stops, right?
Right.
There's always somebody better. There's always something you don't know, and the more you know, the more you learn that how much you don't know, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like the aspect that I really love of martial art
Mhm.
is that I contribute my success in other areas of life. I became successful in other ways because of I was a martial artist, and I saw everything through that perspective, right?
Right.
So, but when you train, especially when you start at a young age, right? It's kind of like it toughens you up first and foremost, right? That you get used to, that sort of physical aspect of confrontation, you know, but also mentally, you have to go out there and you have to fight another kid,
Mhm.
and then there's no parents, there's nobody there to help you, it's you
Right.
and the other kid, right? And even if you started as an adult, it's the same thing, right? It's gonna get your attention, your adrenaline gonna, pump, and
Mhm.
and it's physical combat, and also mental, but just for the example's sake, it's a physical combat. And what happens, you kind of have to manage your adrenaline. You have to manage your heartbeat. You have to manage your breathing. You have to manage your energy. You have to manage your fear if you have any, right? And so when you start learning that, life changes, right? And then all of a sudden you start to look at obstacles in your life, and they're no longer obstacles. You perceive them as challenges. Challenges because, okay, this is difficult, right? I'm excited to figure this out.
Yes.
And that's kind of what happens to your mind. And so all of a sudden, everything, when the house is on fire, I don't panic. My band, especially my singer, Ivan, always call me Swap.
Yes.
It's like, bro, like you just, like there's an explosion and you're like, okay, guys, I'm going to finish my coffee and then we kind of got to get out of here because everything's fine.
It's like the little dog meme, right? In the house of fire. Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of, that happened because of martial arts, right? And if you translate that entire ideology mentality to business or any career choice, right? It's the same thing. Difficulties, will absolutely happen. If there are no difficulties, then either you're superhuman or you're not achieving enough, right? If you're gonna achieve something on a high level, everybody else wants that spot. So so that's gonna be a fight. That's gonna be there's gonna be a competition in some, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like when you parallel with this martial arts, you kind of start to see that how this actually extremely beneficial and changes who you are. So that's kind of, I contribute even what I'm doing now, like 5-finger net punch, for example, right? That was a hard climb, man. That wasn't easy, and it's like, first and foremost, I have assassins in my band.
Yes.
These
Yes.
guys are, the best they could be, and and that mentality, that fighter's mentality.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, yeah, you were speaking of the accomplishments
and
there.
That's all I know about.
It's pretty good, I'd say. Pretty good, man. And yeah, like I said, the accomplishments, you've been racking up plenty in the jiu-jitsu tournaments the past couple of years, right? Collecting all these medals, man. Like, that's awesome to see. And I'm sure has been, like you said, fun challenges there, presenting unique ones every now and then. I'm sure juggling with the schedule too. Like, how do you do that, man?
Well, as we talked about before we started the podcast, like I try to get off the clock, right?
Yeah.
It's a human construct, right? It's a human construct, the time that we, So of course I can, and I have to use it as reference, because when you agree on something like, okay, let's do this today at this time. So, so time makes sense, but I'm trying to be off the clock. It doesn't really matter, what day, what time. Another thing is when you sort of, when you work for yourself, right? Then you're no longer in the matrix, right? You're your own boss. You make your own schedule. You make your, that's always been, that was always the goal,
right?
To be free, free of that. And then all of a sudden, then everything is just this. From the perspective of time, it's kind of blurred. I have no idea what I have done yesterday. I think I went training, but it's kind of blurred because I'm already dealing with today.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds a little bit tree huggerish.
Living in the moment, man.
But that's what really. Yeah, but it is really that. You know what I mean? Like you're on the forefront of perception. I am doing what I'm doing right now, and even though it's always a long range sort of chess game, right?
Yes.
Life and the plans and whatever we do, but any check mark I can put on life.
Yeah.
I started 20 years late. I grew up in a communist country where we didn't have options like I have now, right? And so so this 20 years that I feel like was kind of taken from me,
right.
if I can phrase it that way. I didn't have the runway that people would have in a freer society. And so now once I was here, I'm like, man, I'm here now. Pedal to the metal, and I ignore the brakes, just go, and that's kind of what it is. And everything I kind of, I want to do like race monster trucks, so let's go and do that. I want to fly airplanes, well, let's go do that. So I try to check mark that, because what, there's this thing I believe in. It's I would say a cycle of fulfillment, the cycle of life, in a way that when you were a kid or any point in your life, right?
Right,
You
right.
you have goals and aspirations and things you want to do, right? And I believe that, and it could be anything. It can be intellectual or material. You want to achieve a degree, or you want to have things, right? Doesn't matter. The point is that you go for it, you dream it, you work for it, and then you achieve it. And when you achieve it, you have to check mark it. Like, okay, I've done that, right? And so then it's kind of out of the, out of the the do list, so to speak, right? You also, the same sense, you trained your mind that whatever you dreamt, right? You materialized, you fulfilled, the creative imagination. There was a, there was a plan, there was a dream that you finally achieved. And if for whatever reason, like, let's say for material things, like so you want to get whatever car that you want to get if you're into cars, right? There's a moment when you can get it. And if you don't, then what did you train your mind? You train your mind like, well, I work hard, I get there, and then I didn't get it because I had a pretty good reason. And even if it was a pretty good reason, that on the end of the day, you didn't fulfill the cycle. You didn't put the check mark, right? So in my case, I would be like, let's just get it and then sell it. But the point is, I want to check mark.
Yes.
And it was with, everything that I do, I kind of look at it that way, that I have to check mark it. Okay. Even sometimes there's an explanation like, do you really need it?
Yeah.
No, but
I did it though. I got it. I like that. Yeah, can't beat a good list, man. So I like that. That's definitely a good way to look at it, I think. And speaking of that, I mean,
they're all they need. Go ahead.
Yes. I was going to say PGF's the next one, right? Another thing to check off the list here, this partnership here, just to get into that, man. Like, very exciting, very cool, seeing you a part of it and just what they've been doing. But, like, how did this come together, man? Or did you see it and you were just like, I got to get in on it? Or kind of tell me the story, I guess.
Oh, yeah, all right. So there's a short story, a long story.
Okay.
But the long story, I'm gonna with the long story. So I had there's a brand. It's a Jiu-Jitsu. Oh, here we go. Epic.
There we go.
It's a Jiu-Jitsu brand that I was traveling the world and I train, in various academies. I have a bunch of black belts travel with me, but we also go to local academies, and the local guys that are, high level Jiu-Jitsu guys, grapplers come out and train with us. And I started to notice this, and I trained with some pretty serious cats, right? And so I started to notice that, like, what the hell is this epic roll thing? Because it kept popping up.
Right.
Like, I kept meeting people, especially a lot of them are like really high level, guys who came from the military, some Delta Force guys, some Special Forces guys that also, train Jiu-Jitsu and black belts and multiple degrees, black belts. And I kept, especially in that side circle, but it just kept popping up. I'm like, what the hell is this epic roll thing, right? And how weird it is that I keep running into it. And it turned out I met Matt Wallstrom, who started this brand, and it was not just a brand; it was more of it's kind of a tribe. It's kind of was that if you know, if you're part of it, you're part of it,
right?
And I'm like, I gotta talk to this guy. I need to know more. And then it was maybe a couple of years ago, and we became really good friends, trained together, traveled together, sort of, and I'm like, you know what? I want to be involved in this. And then basically merged. And so Matt Wallstrom, my girl Heather Gracie, and myself became the partners, the three of us with Epic Roll. And we start to even accelerate and build this tribe, right? And then this tribe sort of, we travel together, we all get together, and a bunch of guys in there, you know what I mean? Harley Flanagan to Jeff Glover to Eddie Bravo. I mean, like, a lot of guys are, with us, and we would go and train together. You just have fun, right? And as it was spreading into this. There's PGF, but Brandon McCatron was also part of this tribe who run PGF. Mm-hmm. So Brandon is a 10-planet Jiu-Jitsu black belt, sort of a social media influencer in the world of Jiu-Jitsu. Like, he has a lot of these videos online, and so a lot of big followers, and also he's a commentator on on a bunch of high-level Jiu-Jitsu competitions. And so he was sort of part of this tribe. And then he asked us, like, hey, come out to PGF. They used to keep it in Alabama. That was the place where they were holding these. They had 5 seasons. And he was like, you should come out there. Maybe Epic Roll should have a team. Mm-hmm. Because it's a team-based Jiu-Jitsu tournament. And so Matt and I and Jeff Glover went out there, and man, I mean, I started when I was 9 years old. I seen my share of competitions. You know what I mean? I compete. I think I started at 11 or somewhere. I was 11 first when I went to, and so I see in a lot of competitions, and man, this thing just blew my mind. It was so much fun. It was just the whole idea. It was not the typical, and there's nothing wrong with the typical competition structure, but this wasn't that, right? It was, and there was an auction in there. So I can explain it what it is. There's 20 pre-qualified grapplers, and these are high-level guys that are, you know, they're all ninjas, right? And so there's, imagine 20 grapplers, and there are 14 captains. And in this case, Matt and I and Jeff Glover were the team captains of Team Epic Roll, and there are other team captains, and so there are 4 of them. And then there's an auction, right? And so all the 20 grapplers go up on auction, and we have the same amount of cash, and in this case, PGF coins, whatever. And so we bid for the grapplers, and we have to assemble the best we could probably assemble from the 20, right? And so it's tricky, because here's the thing, you know, like, because it's already strategy, it's already strategic, it's already a chat. Because here's the thing, we all, let's say, bidding for the guy that we all think that probably the best guy in the 20.
Right, of course.
We all kind of know who that is, right? Now, if you end up spending most of your money on the guy, you're not going to have much left with the, you know, to bid for the other 4. So you might get the best guy on the whole 20. That sometimes it's better to have the second, third, maybe 4th best one. And, you know, and as we were bidding and bidding at each other, running each other out of money, for example, I knew that this other team wanted to get a specific guy. Right?
Yes.
And I kept bidding. I had no intention to get a particular guy, but I just wanted to run them out of money. Right. So it was hilarious, right? And as I'm looking at this, and then the competition starts, and that end up on the same team were, you know, sworn enemies before. But now they have to work to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great.
They have to work with each other because they're on the same team. The team has to be. Also, it happened, let's say I stole a guy who was a student to train against his own student. See what I mean?
Yes.
So now he has a different team, and that team, his guys, right, has to beat his own guy. So I'm like,
wow,
man, this is like high level. This is television, man, all the way, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, this has to be more than just what it is. It has to be a TV show. It has to be brought to the world scale, right? And so I was there for 4 days. It's a 4 or 5 days marathon. Like, you know, the teams are fighting for 4 days. Then there's a finals, which means a team won, but sometimes the winning team might not have the guy who had the highest score. See what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a submission only. So everybody scores points and you score for the team. And then a team wins. But it's a possibility that you were a ninja and you won every one of your fights, but you just weren't on you weren't on the winning team because the other 4 guys didn't pull their weight, right? So in that case, if you have the highest score, you can still fight in the finals. Okay. So there's a team competition first and then goes to the final. That's strictly depends on the scores. So that's, you know, 2 competition in 1, right? And I was like, man, I want to be part of this, right? So and, you know, I know by then I knew Brandon for a while. And
exactly, yeah.
Because he's part of the Epic tribe. I'm like, Brandon, what do you want to do with this thing? Right? He's like, I don't know, I just love it, and it's just so much fun. I'm just gonna keep doing it. I'm like, man, this needs a world, you know, it needs to be on a world platform, right? I'm like, I'm really interested in being involved in this. I mean, I have a network, I have resources. I mean, I can really throw some power behind it, right? And so that's kind of how it started, right? And we ended up merging companies, and now it's 4 of us. It's Keelan Lawyer, who's basically, Keelan is the technical guru behind the PGF. So it was Keelan and Brandon were partners, right? And then me and Heather were partners in Epic Roll, and she's my girlfriend. So, you know, we live together. So this is a strong team, and their team, you know, got together, and this is 4 of us now. We moved it to Las Vegas. We threw $100,000 as a grand prize, which is an unusual number in, you know, tournaments. And the reason we also did that because everybody's dream was at one point that Jiu-Jitsu would become an Olympic sport, right? And it has a tough time to accomplish that because, you know, there's grappling and there's judo. So the Olympic Committee has an issue with it. I have something too similar, right? And so that's kind of like, if you do no gi, it's too close to grappling. If you do gi, it's too close to judo. So that's kind of the issue why Jiu-Jitsu have a hard time to get traction as an Olympic sport. And on the same hand, you know, it never really went pro. I mean, like there are some competition series that do pay some of that, you know, some of the fighters, but generally, I mean, you know, we train, we risk injuries, you know, I mean, we put blood and sweat and years of dedication into this. You go to a competition and while, again, I'm talking about all positive though, so I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way. You know, because I'm doing this for decades, right? I'm going to the competition, and if I win, it's good for me. It's good for I feel good about it, right? Because I measured myself. That I didn't just get my black belt. I fight against the best of the best, and you know, I'm getting medals and podiums. Then I deserve to be here, right? So there's that, right? That I have a, you know, I put in your own mind, right? You create this undoubtable status that you can always think that you know, everybody imagine that they're so good in fighting. Everybody has an idea,
right?
Like,
Exactly.
I'm gonna beat this guy. Well, especially people who don't train.
Yeah, the fans.
How this fighting, right? The reality is really different, right? And so that's what I mean. Like even if you train, you have an idea like what you could do, right? But you train with your friends. When you go to a competition, man, you're gonna be tried, you're gonna be tested, right? So anyway, so I go to this competition for that. But you win a medal, you got to put it on your wall, and every time you look at it, you're like, yeah, I did that.
Exactly, the ego boost.
Right. And a little bit of a self-assurance never helps, right? But never, you know, it's never bad for you. But the reality is that how do you go pro, right? If you're a Jiu-Jitsu practitioner or grappler, how do you go pro, right? So there's not really an avenue yet for that. So I thought, you know what, let's put a serious price in this. And hopefully in the next seasons, we can possibly elevate it and just keep pushing it, right? Because that means that Jiu-Jitsu fighters can go pro. There could be a world when you will make a living out of this. So all you have to do is just train hard. Like basically what the UFC did for MMA fighters, right? Or other promotions. But generally, the UFC is the one that really made it into a professional sport, professional athletes that just train. This is what they do. This is what they are, the masters of, and you know, they don't have to hold down a job next to it. So, is there a world when Jiu-Jitsu can have that? You know, and I know hundreds and hundreds. This is my world, right? I know hundreds and hundreds of these guys, and you know, and I see the dedication and really how much work goes into this. And so I thought, you know what, it's a platform now. PGF is a platform now that it will possibly pave the way for that. Once we did it, other promotions will probably have to do it too, you know. So we are possibly paving the way for a world where Jiu-Jitsu fighters can make a living out of it. So that's one thing. The other thing is, obviously, it is the fastest growing sport at the moment, right? But I would love that world if we recruit even more people to this, you know?
Right.
Because in the beginning of this conversation, I was talking about how it changed who I am, how it realigned me, how it changed the way I think. And I think without getting into politics and social sciences here, what's happening in the world, and you could use some of this. Sorry?
Yes, I hear you.
You can use some toughening up and you know, some testicular fortitude, motivation to achieve and do things. And so anyway, so I think it's good for society. And you know, from my perspective, and you know, especially Heather Gracie, her grandfather is Carlos Gracie. So her grandfather sort of, him and his brothers started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or the popularization of what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is developed in. So for her, it's also legacy, you know.
Yeah.
And she's an invaluable, member of the team, the PGF team. But it's for her, it's like, it's for me too. It's like this. I owe this sport. I owe this martial art. I shouldn't say sport. For me, it's a martial art.
Yeah.
I owe this martial art everything, kind of, because it made me who I am, and it gave me a mental conditioning that I could win in life. So I see it as a vehicle, as it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's entertaining. People who don't understand jiu-jitsu, because we change kind of the rules too.
Yeah.
It's submission only, right? So and 5, or maybe we'll see 5 or 6 minutes, we'll decide on, but we crunch down the time. So you have to succeed in a short period of time. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, then you get 0 point, and that's it. So you're not scoring for your team. It's kind of, and then there's a team behind you that's going to go, bro, you are lacking, and
yes.
We're not going to win that. And there's a prize, and it's a serious prize, and you're the one. So imagine that. So that changes how the dynamics work, right? And so it makes this particular tournament extremely fast. And I'm not going to say violent. I'm going to say gentlemanly violent, okay?
Okay, I like it.
It's still a gentleman's martial arts, right? So it's gentlemanly violent, but it is violent, it is fast, it is almost acrobatic. I can't even pronounce it. Acrobatic, right? All right, there we go. So it's acrobatic. I mean, like, you see some flying everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And so that means your grandma can watch it and, and go, holy shit.
What is happening? Yeah.
Right. So if we can make it into, and we already made it into that, then that will bring more people to this, and then it's also watchable, it's entertaining for the civilians, so to speak, right? And so that's the goal, and it's taking off. I mean, we dropped the news 3-4 days ago, right? This is Monday. Yeah. What is Sunday today?
Yes.
Yeah,
this past week.
So I don't know. So I think we dropped. Yeah, it's past week. All right, that's good. That works. So this past week we dropped it, and man, I mean, it's an overrun of applicants. High level guys are getting involved, and sponsors. I mean, we're getting calls from various corporate companies, and for trying to sponsor this, because every team, right? At the past, it was Epic Roll had a team, other companies, Level had a team. So that's, that's being mentioned all the way to the 5 days of the competition, and that team will always be your team. So also people realizing what's happening. So we're getting those calls. I mean, it's pretty amazing how that idea that let's make this into a grappling tournament with a high price just kind of changed everything. It's exciting times, man. I'm enjoying where this is going. I think we kind of created a little bit of an earthquake in in the scene.
Yeah, feels like it.
I'm really enjoying the effect of it, because I saw that other tournaments are now also putting up prizes. I already saw that, like, other tournaments came out like, we are doing that too. So it is doing what it's supposed to. It's changing the landscape, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was, like, aside from the dynamic of it, which I think you summarized greatly, it is very entertaining in pretty much every way that you could ask for from a tournament-based competition. But, like, the most exciting thing for me when I saw this was the fact that it could maybe build and lead to, that greater ability to attract people and really make a career out of it. Because that's a thing that, like, Gordon Ryan and a lot of, top grapplers have been vocal about, maybe the pay and potential to really last in it, not quite being there sometimes. So this seems like the great opportunity to lead to, all those avenues like you're talking about. Right. So it's really cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, look, like those guys, like, so there are a few guys, like Gordon is one of them. There are a few guys who figured out how to capitalize it, right?
Yeah.
And but that's really, really the minority. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a really small number of guys who manage to do that, and that's kind of what we're trying to change. And another thing that also kind of actually the season 6. I mean, like, look at who's involved. Like, who are the team captains, right? So team captains are Roger Gracie, one of the best ever.
Pretty good.
Ever done, right?
Yeah.
So he's a team captain. Andre Galbao mean, Andre Galvao was like, I don't know, 10 times world champion. I mean, he's
Just
an
a
absolute
freak,
legend.
yeah.
He's the head of the Atos network. Right? Eddie Bravo is an inventor. He's like, the no-gi, god of,
Einstein of
the
Jiu-Jitsu.
world. And then, yeah, 10 Planet Network is massive, right? So there's a whole, there's a whole other world. So, Eddie's in one. I know Eddie for, man, like 20 freaking years or something like that. And Jeff Glover, Jeff is, and Jeff is the dark horse. Jeff was always, when I converted to Jiu-Jitsu, I watched Jeff, right? So he was the world champion at the time, and I'm like, man, this guy is like, I really loved him and his style, because I'm like, he's so outside of the box. You know what I mean? He's so different than from anything else, and just with such an ease, right? So he's also an inventor, which he's a dear friend of mine. I mean, like, we hang out almost daily and train together, And so anyway, so we got this forward of what this is and where this is going. So they were like, hell yeah, I want to be involved in this, because I see that this is revolutionary. I see that this will change what's to come, And so they signed up because of the reason. They thought it's exciting, that they thought it's different, and they really think, just like us, that this will be a seismic shift in the entire sport. So imagine this. I mean, those four as team captains, they're gonna be bidding bidding each other, doing the whole,
That's so great.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, man, it's so cool, and I'm really looking forward to to seeing again just the potential. Thinking about the overall future is really awesome, man. But it's funny too, Zoltan. Like, I think back on things before chatting with you, man, and like I'm curious, just with your grappling background and all that you have, like, was there any interest in actually like doing MMA? Because I'm gonna throw this back for the real hardcore fans, but you guys probably had one of the first like MMA music videos with The Way of the Fist, right? Like, I can't think of too many other music videos that featured like cage fighting, right?
All right, caught, we are back.
Yes,
right.
There we are.
You see, the PGF made such waves that finally,
yeah,
seismic
got through the internet waves.
Took out your camera.
Perfect.
All right. So look, I mean, obviously you've been there from the beginning. Like the question, like, about the first MMA martial arts sort of video, right? So you've been there from obviously you picked up on a band Stranger Than Fiction. That was on the first record. So that means you're with us since 2007 2008, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so at that time, nobody really knew us, or nobody really figured it out yet, right? Because we were who we were. And people didn't figure out yet, like, who we are, what that means, right? And so that's kind of what I mean. Like, even Five Finger Death Punch, the name of the band came from, from martial arts movies. Yep. There was a Five Fingers of Death. There was a, the
Lotus Punch.
Lotus Punch. That just would be weird as a, what's your band name? Lotus Punch.
Yeah.
I mean, they would
not
work,
the same, not the same.
A punch in a lotus. I don't know. I don't think that would work. So it became Five Finger Death Punch, right? Five of us, it's whatever. We can fill
it was metal.
The philosophy, but right? Metal. It's it's the .com was available. Nobody had it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And right, and so so at the time nobody really know that. And the theme of the songs, people didn't, we get a lot of that flack of like, oh, these are tough guy, right?
Right.
Tough guys, would wanna be tough guys. And when somebody goes like, these wannabe tough guys, my answer is not even like, bro, I'm like kind of, national silver medalist, black belt in whatever, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna answer that. It's like whatever.
Yeah. Lay out your resume for them.
Right. I'm not gonna send you my resume and my, it's just, hate always flows up, and it's never from the top. It's always it's the hobby of the losers. The winners are busy winning, man.
Yes.
So anyway, so people didn't really know that, right? But I was a martial artist my whole life, so this was part of what this is. And then if you look at my band, I mean, Chris Cale, for example. Chris Cale, people don't necessarily know this, but he's a Muay Thai fighter. He even had some semi-pro fights, and he trains forever, right? And Ivan is a true scrappler. You know what I mean? Like he was a champion of bar fights. So he stopped doing that, by the way. He's a gentleman. He's running his businesses. Really proud of him, actually. He's a productive member of society.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Companies building, right? Right. So so that's kind of what it was. We were who we were already. And the first video, The Way of the Fist, and the theme of that record, and comes off like, oh, that's a lot of aggression. Yeah, but you just didn't know at the time that this is who we are. This is this, right? And so some people don't even know. Like, I had a company that we would travel to various MMA fights back in the days when it wasn't really what would be the word? It wasn't allowed in every state, right? It wasn't. The Athletic Commission didn't really.
They're still figuring things out.
And so we had to go to, like, some places. So we had to go to, like, Indian casinos, because that's where the fights would be, right? So I know, like, Herb Dean and all these guys from back in the days, King of the Cage, Gladiator Challenge, we would be always there. Dude, Ivan was coming with me. He would be interviewing, like, Uriah Faber way before he was.
I just talked to him the other day. That's hilarious.
Like, he was in Gladiator Challenge, right? He was fighting there. And so then I, like, Jake Shields. I know Jake Shields years before he was in the UFC, right? And he still comes out to the shows. I mean, we friends for, like, I don't know, 25 years, right? So I was there when he transitioned into the UFC, and I was there when he fought George St. Pierre. He comes out to the shows, you know what I mean? So the connection was there for a long time, and so obviously that kind of seeped into the music and or presentation, because that's who we are. So that's why there was always this thing, like, who these guys think they are? They're like some kind of fighters, and like, I dabble. So.
That's the best way to answer. I mean,
Dude, I don't know if I'm gonna do this yet. This is the most hilarious thing. So somebody just sent me an audio snippet of some podcaster guy, right?
Okay.
It's a couple of years old, but somebody found it and sent it to me. And it's a podcast, typical, hater, whatever. Don't like the band, cool, whatever, move on, right? But he likes hating on the band. And in this podcast, the guy actually challenged me, right?
Okay.
So he was talking about something like, yeah, man, these guys are thinking, like, they're tough dudes. And because I always talk about American freedom and, freedom of speech, as how important it is, coming from somewhere when I didn't have that growing up, right? And I was like, this is America, man. You should be able to say anything. That's one of the foundation of this country, that you should be able to say whatever, right? And so this guy kind of like, oh, I can say anything too, then I will challenge you, mother. I always curse. I caught myself.
Hey, all good. We're uncensored here. We're uncensored.
And I'm trying to keep it gentlemanly, right?
Yes.
So this guy going on a tangent, and he's talking about, like, I challenge you. You name the place and the time, and I'll beat you down as many times as I need to. And I'm thinking, dude, this guy has no idea who's talking to.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you would have said that if you actually, had a clue. So I'm thinking,
really want to
just name the place and the time for you. And kind of like, I'm thinking maybe make it a pay-per-view event.
Hey, there you go.
There are two guys on a podcast. I challenge you both in the same time. MMA rules, cage fight. You can get both of you in the same time. Put on a good price that goes to charity for anti-bullying, and I throw in a free wheelchair for both of you, because you will need it. So, that's kind of my, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, here's the thing. How many artists are out there who, you don't know who they are. You don't know how many suicides we have, right? You don't know that I'm a broken, low soul. You don't know that, right? So you're talking mad shit about me, right? And challenging me and basically threatening me online, right? What if I was some frail low guy and now my feelings got hurt and I would contemplate on, I don't know, something horrible? You don't know that. We have people that we lost, artists,
Yeah.
actors, musicians, that we lost to this, right? So this is a serious thing. You don't know anybody's minds, right?
Exactly.
I always view the online bullying as pretty disgusting because number one, it's not face to face. You will never say that in my face.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And as good old Tyson would say, as good old Mike Tyson would say, you guys getting away with this for way too long without getting punched in the face for disrespecting people, right? And number two is like, you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know their background. You don't know what's their circumstances, right? What you just said to somebody could be the last drop in a really tall cup that just failed, and this person might even take their own life. You don't know that. So when you're talking to somebody, you're insulting somebody, going after and bullying somebody online, I take it as a serious offense. So I hate bullies. And for the longest time, I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to answer this because, well, somebody's recently sent me, but I'm not going to answer this because that would make me a bully, right?
Right.
But then what would stop a bully? A good-ass beating. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Contemplate it. So we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Yeah. I mean, hey, there's another thing to check off, man. So we will definitely see.
Maybe put it in a PGF.
Yeah, Bully
Right.
Beatdown. If you remember that show, you can bring it back. I gotta ask those, Zoltan. Like,
Right. Like, was that Mayhem? Who did?
yeah, Mayhem hosted it. Yeah, on MTV.
Maybe. Right.
Yeah. I gotta know though, man. Going back to the Way of Fist real quick. Is there any story behind Zoltan Open the Sky? Because I love that line, of course. But is there any story behind that?
So it's one of those Ivan one-liners, right? For example, the whole chant, five finger that punch, right? Like this is now worldwide phenomenon. We go on stage before even we hit the stage. People, once half of the arena would scream five finger, the other half scream that punch, right? Or we have to just stay on stage, five finger, scream in the back.
Right.
That was an Ivan special. He's really good at this stuff, right? And so the very first show we ever played, he did that, and it became a thing.
Wow.
Right? And then the Zoltan Open the Sky part was, it's just, that part was like literally, I'm mainly a rhythm guitarist. I can play leads, and I was a huge Yngwie Malmsteen, fan. I learned that sweep picking, I learned all that stuff, right? But I fell in love with baritone guitars. I fell in love with that super low tune guitars, and I wasn't really a fan of the new metal era, so to speak, right? So I grew up on European old school heavy metal stuff, right? And so I'm more of that. I like the two guitar players, the harmonies and melodies, how they connect and how they complement each other, versus the big American grooves, but I love those. But my background is that very European stuff, and then so in my head, international sound. Like I like the big grooves, like the Pantera. When European music is, even if you're unconscious of it, it's kind of based on classical music because that's what's embedded in the culture. So that's the difference to me between American and European heavy metal. And I always thought but I love both. So what if we merge these two? So American grooves, that Pantera-esque, and as I just said, that very groove-based music with the European melodies, harmonies, how they connect to each other. But then I love the sound of new metal. I wasn't much at the time, at least. As I revisited that era, actually, in retrospect, actually it was pretty cool. Yeah. But at the time, I wasn't less a fan because I like guitar solos. I like the more complicated music, and but the sound was incredible, right? So I went and started diving into like baritone guitars, 1999, 2000, somewhere in there, right? And so, but when you go, and step down there, right? It's ultimately anything you play sounds ferocious, but what happens? Changes the sound. Changes the way you play, because my guitar strings are going from 17 to 30. Any guitar player that actually will listen beyond that, heavier string, well, definitely not going to go to a Floyd Rose or, you know what I mean? So that's probably the heavy can kind of go with a guitar string. And so that's what I'm tuning to. And when you do that, what happens, you know, bending the strings, the vibratos, those intricacies start to disappear. And then everything goes toward the rhythm. So that's kind of how I converted from, you know, messing around with leads and, you know, the intricate stuff into just brutal rhythm grooves.
Yeah.
Right. And then I always had the super fast picking. My twitch muscle thing just worked for me. So I can, you know, sustain a way of the fit type rhythm for 2 hours without big breaking of sweat. Right. And so that's kind of became my world. So I transited down to that, you know, the percussive, fast rhythm and groove kind of thing on a lower string. So I always look for guitarists to complement me, which means I need to find somebody who either plays a 7-string guitar, most likely, so they have the lighter string, so they can have those intricacies and that they can shred and do the solos. And in a way of the fist is probably like the only solo kind of that I played in there. So Ivan was like, "Oh, there comes Zoltan." Yeah. Zoltan opened the sky. So that's a long answer to the short question.
I love it though. I love it.
Yeah, but that's kind of how that happened. Generally, you know, look, it's like, this is the thing. When there's 2 guitarists in a band, right? It's like, not if both of you are sharpshooters, you know what I mean? Who handles the bazooka? You know what I mean? Like, look at it as a SWAT thing, right? I'm going to have a sharpshooter, right? I have Andy James, one of the best guitarists in heavy metal alive today. You know what I mean? The guy's insane. You know, when he posts something and you have the Nuno Bettencourts of the world commenting and like, "Yo, bro, that's insane," right? And Nuno is like, "Holy cow," you know what I mean? Like, to me, he was one of the best ever lived, right? And so, you know, so he's a ninja. So he's my sharpshooter. I'm the bazooka guy. I'm just gonna come in heavy and just, you know, I'm gonna just carpet bomb. That's my, you know, that's
a great analogy, yeah.
Right? and it's like, right, and it's where you can coexist. The most horrible thing that you can possibly have in a band is competition. That's in a band circumstance, I will compete in martial arts or any other. Within a band, competition is gonna tear your band apart.
Right.
That's not the place for that. That's a place for, you know, figuring out who's best at what, and let them do that, right? Like, Ivan writes the lyrics. I will not attempt to write lyrics. I will not step on his toes. You know, Charlie's the drummer. I'm not going to get into the drums. It's, you know what I mean? It's his territory.
Do your thing.
Leave him alone, right? And so that's kind of, yeah. So that's kind of how it works. And you know, and that's how we operate. But that solo on the first record was mine, because when we did the first record, I was basically recruiting the band with that first record. That became The Way of the Fist. And I had like 12, 13 songs by the time I reached that. Like, I had a couple of drummers, figuring out who's going to be in, a couple of different guitarists. And eventually I got Jeremy, who became at the time a permanent member. He was the first drummer.
Yep. Shouts to Jeremy.
And he was the band, right. And then the 2 of us kind of put it together. So because I write on hip hop loops, actually. That's not a known thing. I like groovy stuff. So I use hip hop loops to write heavy metal riffs, and then take off the loops and put on real drums. That's how it works for me. And so then we did that. Jeremy would drum up that first record, and then we start to recruit all the other members, and you know, that's how this built. So on the first record, I mean, I wrote all the songs except for one. I wrote half of one songs. Daryl Roberts, or third guitarist actually at that time, but you know, the first known guitarist from the band, who we co-wrote one song, right? And so at the time, I kind of had to. So from The Way of the Fist solo came from me because of that reason. But you know, after that, you know, as I said, I like SWAT team when everybody has a function, and I always try to find a guitarist who is better than me on, let's say, lead. Right. That's why I was at the end dreams, and you know, and all the other guys, because that's their function. I'm good at this, right? And that's kind of how that came together.
And is it
And that's all
weird?
I know about Shane. I was
Oh, good man, I love it. But yeah, like, is that weird for you to like go back and watch those old music videos or listen to the original songs like all these years later, man?
well, you know, we have so many now that sometimes I would listen to something and I'm like, man, that thing sounds like us. And I'm like, oh shit, it's us. Like there are some songs that I even forgot that they exist. It's kind of strange,
Wow.
but yeah, you know, yeah,
Yeah, definitely got quite the
I mean, like
catalog now.
100, 140, 150 songs, whatever. Like, you know, we are recording right now our 10th record. So, you know, in
Yeah.
fact, you know, like one of the things that kind of happened to us is that when we went out with our first record, right? We had just one record, obviously.
Hmm.
And on the end of that year, the record came out 2007, and by the end of 2008, so it came out 2007, I think August-ish, September, somewhere like that.
Hmm.
And by a year later, we were a headlining band, right? It just blew up. It was all the fans, man. It was just connecting, you know, with a very specific fan base. And these guys were hardcore. So the band just, as we were touring, and we played every shithole on the planet, and you know, and constant touring, and it exponentially grew, the fan base. It was just exponential, and so by the end of 2008, we were a headlining band and we didn't have enough songs. We had one record, and that's, you know, with 45 minutes, 50 minutes of music, and as a headliner band, you have to play, you know, about an hour, you know, hour 20, at least an hour, but hour 20, you know what I mean, is the spot. And we didn't have the song, so we threw in Bad Company. We played a Fate No More song, you know what I mean?
Yes.
We had, yeah, we threw in a couple of covers, right? And on that, when we went to do the second record, that's how First of all Bad Company came about.
Okay.
That we were like, well, we played this live. All the fans were asking, like, hey, you guys should record this song. So we recorded a song, and that song just exploded, you know. And it wasn't a calculated anything. It was kind of like, yeah, well, we're playing it live, so why not just
right.
put it on the record, right? And then it just exploded. So, you know, and then after that, we have, I think, 5 covers, maybe 6, right? So we have about 100 and 5, 6 covers, but almost every one of those covers went huge. You guys are a cover band. Well, you don't realize that, okay, you know, we have 150 songs and only 5, 6 covers. There, I don't know, Metallica made an entire cover album.
Yeah.
And, you know, Guns N' Roses, one of the biggest songs is a cover. I mean, you know, this is not a strange thing. Marilyn Manson, first big song.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's kind of, you know, you know what I mean? So we always get that. Yes, we are good at covers. I guess all the covers we did actually land some. So.
Yeah.
But I think like 5 or 6 of them. That's it.
I know, it's funny, people get wrapped up because they just enjoy them so much they get familiar, I guess, having heard them somewhere else or something, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, cover has a second life.
Yeah.
You know that's what that is. Because when because here's the thing, you're gonna cover a song, you're not gonna cover a song that was completely unknown.
Right.
Because then, you know,
what's the point?
It's probably not, right? Because unless, let's say, I found a song that I really, really like, and it's an unknown song, and maybe would be like, you know what, guys, can we do this? Let's do this, and because this song should be heard by more people, and we have a platform. Maybe, but generally, people cover a song that was already a big song, right?
Right.
So it's familiar to people already. Now, also, if you know what you're doing, then you're gonna cover a song like we would never really cover, let's say, a Metallica song, because, you know, we are in the same genre,
Yeah.
right? And they did it as good as it can be, Metallica, right? And so if I'm in the same genre, it makes no sense for me to cover it. Now, if I was in a jazz band and I say, hey guys, you're a jazz band, but let's cover Metallica, it would make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's gonna be different, right? So usually you pick songs from, you know, when it comes to cover, it's like either.
I mean, Mama Said Knock You Out's a perfect example.
Yeah, there you go. Mama Said, you know, I love that song. So, you know, and then we cover a couple of, Blue on Black with Kenny Wayne
Yep.
Shepherd's song, and that was amazing because Kenny heard it, he loved it. Now it's not even a cover, now it's a collab, like, because he was on a song, Then Brantley Gilbert, country star, got involved, and then he wrote, who wrote? I think maybe him, or because Brian May heard it, and he was like, "Oh, I want to do this," and then it became this collaborative effort of a handful of artists, and that's just I'm really proud of that because that one was a true effort.
I'm sure.
People from different eras, different genres, you know what I mean? That was cool. And that's what it's supposed to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It is crazy. And, especially the challenges. I think that's kind of the thing about it for me is, seeing you guys take on these challenges. And I'm curious, like, too, for you now, like, how many challenges you can really have after making music for so long at this point. Like, is that kind of the thing that keeps it really fun? And, what you try, like, how do you is it easy to seek out the challenges, or, how do you look at it from that side, I guess?
Well, I'll tell you what, good question. Because there are challenges, but the challenges are very unique and different. And only bands would experience this particular challenge who are around for a long time, right? If you have 3 records and you done, then you're not gonna run into this. But when you're coming up with a 10th record or more, right? There's an interesting situation here, right? And we experienced that with our previous record. I think our previous record, Afterlife, is my favorite record. Okay. I think that was really fun to make. You know what I mean? It was really fun to make. The subjects we were touching were different, and I really like that record, where that record went. That and F8, the previous one, both of these records came out in a time when the world was on fire.
Yes.
So they didn't really get the attention of the previous one. This was, was 2020 and then right into that, right? So both of those records didn't get to enjoy the, otherwise, fertile, world of, music scene. It went into the noise when everything is loud and crazy, and but those are the 2 favorite records I have, and the last one is probably the one that I feel like that's a really good record. And here are the challenges with this, and we learned some stuff on that on that last record, because the challenge is that now, after 9 records, you accumulated a massive fan base,
right?
And as an artist, you always, if you're doing it right, you're doing it for yourself first and foremost. You're gonna do something you like. If you're gonna make something that purposely for other people to like, make hamburgers, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this is a different thing. See what I mean? So first and foremost, I'm never gonna put something out that I personally don't like. I will not participate in a song or whatever I don't feel close to or I don't like. That's not why you're an artist, right? Yeah. So that's the first objective. Like, you want to serve yourself and where you are. Well, I can't really be emotionally, mentally, even physically where I was in 2007 or 2005 when I started to write Away with Fist, right? And 2007 before that. So none of us are there, so mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, any way you're looking at us, we are different people now.
Right.
It's been, it's be coming up on 2 decades next year, right? 2005 when I started. So, the next year is 20 years old. So, you're a different person. So I can't be there. Right. So I have to do what I like right now. And that's different what I liked back then. See what I mean? And so a lot of the fans who are with us for a long time do expect a specific sound, a specific thing from us. And, and so there is the dilemma, like, well, this is the fan base and we would like to do something they will like, but there is my own personal need where I'm at right now, music, and what I want to do. Now, thank freaking God that it still overlaps.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? I didn't get into jazz fusion. Like, man, I want to play jazz fusion with some sprinkled in some polka. That's not where we are, right? So, you know, so it still coincides, but you know, but it's a little bit different tastes, different things I'm interested in. You know, again, it's every one of us in the band, obviously. And so the challenge is that how do you keep progressing? So one half of the world will say, oh man, they're completely changing. This is not what I signed up for. They are different band now, right? That's going to be one half of the crowd. The other one is like, well, it's the same shit since 2005. I'm like, you can't win, right?
Yeah, right.
So how do you mitigate that? How do you mitigate that whole thing where there has to be a constant, you know, growth? So I can't stay where, you know, because I see this too, like, man, they should go back to like Warriors Dance. You're like, bro, that was 2008.
Yeah,
you know,
time traveling.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's, you know, so I can't really go back there. But what we did, I love. So I can still find elements and still do things that I love from that era. But, you know, so that's a challenge. How do we grow? How do we progress? And how do we serve ourselves, our own artistic needs? In the same time, how do you give the fans something fresh and new, but also satisfy the people with their what they got into the band for? There's a reason why they got into the band. So that element still has to be there, right? And then all this has to be real and organic. I can't just pretend like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give this to you because I know you like it. I have to like it too. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. And after you did 150 songs, whatever, then you know it is a challenge. How do I write something like that but completely new? And you know what I mean? It's a lot. So that's the challenge, right? So when it comes to this, the way to approach it is really like, you know what? You're just gonna go to the studio and do what feels right. And it is what it is. You know, kind of like that's the only thing you can do. Yeah, but it's a challenge.
That makes total sense, man. And it's funny though, because while you're saying all that, it makes me think of like that thought process leads to Death Punch Therapy. Like that song is a great example of that because it's like a callback song.
Right. Yeah. And that's what it came from, because we were having that conversation, and you know, Ivan showed up with that song, and he was like, you know what, man, this will be sort of an acknowledgement of that. Yeah. Right. The previous, you know, at the time 7 records, 8 at the time, the previous 8 records, right? So Ivan was literally saying that, like, you know what I mean? This way we can give the fans something that that was dear to them, but we do need to progress it. We need to move on. We do need to, you know, go to another, you know, unexplored pastures. And it's in his lyrics too. You know what I mean? And if you listen to his lyrics, there's a piece in the lyrics. I'm you know, he's gonna be mad at me if I misquote it, but but it's about that he would rather die or capsize. He used the word capsize. He needs to seek a new horizon, right? That was the phrase in the lyrics, that, you know, he needs to seek a new horizon. He'd rather capsize in a sea of the old. You know what I mean? Like that's so it's even in his lyrics because it was in his head. You know what I mean? That I can't just keep repeating the whole thing. I remember we were doing this because that's another thing, like, you know, things people don't necessarily know, right? Every time we do a freaking photo shoot for a magazine, right, the photographer gonna ask us like, hey, I have a great idea. How about you guys get black eyes and cuts and whatnot and put on your fist? And like, you're the 700th photographer that has this brilliant original idea, man. Fucking see, I cursed.
There it is. Right. We're towards the end anyway.
I promised myself I'll keep it gentlemanly. Okay, so there it is. So, you know, it's like, dude, every other photographer said this to us, and you know, and then you start to see those not even friendly to us. You're gonna just roll your eyes like, yeah, here you go. Here comes a tough guy. You need to gain the black eyes, and you know. Now, actually, I do have a little bit of black eye left.
There's a little bit there.
I have a massive one, like I still have there a little bit. Yeah, like I got one like 2 weeks ago. And I post the picture like, hey man, this is what it takes. And then I get, dude, I get all these messages like, oh, you're now in the Illuminati. No, we know. I'm like, what?
What
like,
is
what?
this?
You're a black guy. You're in
Oh my
what
God.
the hell does that mean? And then people would send me these pictures of various politicians and whatnot with the black guy. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm training martial arts.
Yeah. Chill out, guys.
I mean, the world is
There's
crazy.
not everything's a
Anyway,
conspiracy.
So, right. But so a lot of people, kind of, see that look at these things and they see the photos and they don't know like as I said, this whole thing came from me telling you that how Ivan is growing and changing and want to do different things. And he kind of, not that he flipped out, but he was getting really annoyed with like a photographer that was like, okay, so we're going to do this fist stop in an Ivan's and you're going to scream into the camera. And he's like, man, I'm tired of screaming. Like,
He's like, I've done that.
The audience doesn't know this, that we're being pressured. Right. We're being literally pressured. Like, dude, how about the black guy? I'm like, dude, it just went away. It was a good one. I'm not gonna put a fake one. So navigate. It's like even band photos because it's kind of there comes the there come the four Einstein with the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the farthest thing from us, actually.
Yeah. Right. It's just
but hey. It's not a complaint. I'm just telling you the funny, anecdote.
That's how it is.
Black guy, not the Illuminati. Oh, dude. So, for example, all right. So, one of the things that people don't actually realize, like if you look at our album covers, right? Mm-hmm. Every album, I'm generally doing the art. Sometimes I'm doing it with somebody, but generally,
right.
It's my task, merch and artwork and all, right? And every record cover has hidden messages on it, right? That every record cover has some crazy stuff, and you start to, if you know what it is, or
Easter eggs,
it's pretty hilarious. Right? Oh yeah, there are Easter eggs all over the record covers, right? And for example, on F8, we did that record cover, the Ouroboros, the snake, the infinity snake that eats itself, right? And some known symbols, right? We put that purpose on the record, right? And same thing, like if you really start to read symbolism and what it means, like I can send you a message made of emojis, right? And you can kind of figure out what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So the same way, take it as sophisticated emojis on the cover, and then you start to put it together, because I get that a lot of people like, oh my God, they're satanic Illuminati.
Yeah.
They're going crazy, right? And I'm like, oh my, it might have gone above your head, man. Probably like about 10 foot, but you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like that. Like we put it together because we like to poke at things,
Yeah.
When everybody was on the streets with the sign, war is not the answer. And I'm like, well, sometimes it is, dude.
Yeah.
So we named the record War is the Answer, right? And and then because of that, there are, I'm gonna give you some. If you turn War is the Answer around, on the back of the cover, there's a hand grenade. But the sculpture, everybody knows, the fat Buddha Gautama.
Yeah.
Gautama Buddha was the one that liked to eat, right? There were many Buddhas in there, but he was the one that we considered the Buddha, Gautama. And so everybody knows that the smiling fat Buddha sculpture, right? So if you look at the back of the cover, I'm going to give you one of the Easter eggs. Right. If you look at the back of the cover, it's composition of a hand grenade and a Buddha. So it's basically a pin in it, right? And the title is War is the Answer, right? And it was really about that, right? War is the answer. It's the biggest war a human can ever fight. Is stop doing your own mind. Your own mind that is out of control. Talking to you, thoughts are shooting around, right? Your train of thought is not conscious. You're not living a fully conscious, self-realized life. because, you know, when you say, oh, you know what just popped in my mind? There's no such thing. Your mind is a continuous bullet, right? That ricochets all over, and anything that comes to your mind was triggered by something else, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're not aware of it. You have this insane quantum computer in your mind, right? Fueled with DMT, and you know what I mean? Like there's this insane, you know, device in your head that is uncontrolled, uncultivated, and just running amok, right? And so the biggest war in a human's life is to subdue that, quiet down the noise, and take full control and full ownership of your own mind. And that's what comes with full responsibility. You're responsible for everything, not just what you did, but also what you said, and then also what you thought, because whatever you think, you are, right? And so that's the war. That's what the war is, the answer. You absolutely have to war with your own mind and subdue it. The mind that tells you, like, I need to eat that extra cake, and I really don't want to go to the gym, and I'm not good enough.
Yes,
You're never gonna be, and that is the real war. So now I gave you one. That's what war is, the answer was. But because we did it in a time when there was an actual war,
right?
Everyone just lost their mind, right? But if you read the signs, if you read the lyrics, if you actually watch what we actually do, the fans know this. This is just the people who know us, right? If you look at the album cover and you look at, then you start figuring out, like, oh, okay, got it, right? So that's more, but that's the main one, right? And so every record has one. And so is F8. F8 was pretty racy, because racy in a way that we put some symbolism on that got some eyebrows raised, like what they doing, what, right?
Right.
But yeah, you know, here's the thing. As an artist, it's not my job to preach to you and tell you how to live, but I'm definitely gonna push the buttons.
Of course.
You know, just make you think.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Oh, I love it, man. Now I'm going to have to go look back at all of them. You got me very fascinated to do some puzzles a little bit tonight. So
okay.
That's awesome.
So what record was? Let's go for, what was our, look, it's like sometimes I don't even remember record titles.
I got you. What do you need? What are you thinking of?
So,
American Capitalist was third.
What was, because I'm trying to figure out like which record had, no, it was, I'm trying to figure out which record, because again, I'm hiding these things in it and then I just leave it there, right? It was the 8 record, number 8, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because number 9, number 8, yes. So, Justice for None. Obviously, we were kidding, because obviously Metallica was doing that, Justice for All.
Yes.
But the real thing came from like where that phrase is coming from. Now, if somebody looks at that and says like, well, that's Metallica, maybe you need to study like where Metallica took it from. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of a point. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? In schools, and the Pledge of Alliance and all those things start to disappear from America. Unfortunately, a lot of these things are disappearing, and so that was kind of a little bit of a poke, you know, because I knew and we knew that people are gonna go like, oh, you guys copied Metallica, and it's like, no, we kind of trying to make a point. And so it was both Injustice for None, where it came from, what that phrase means, and how we put Injustice for None, right? And so that was both the political climate of the time, the social climate of the time, and what was happening with the band. We were warring with our record label. So if you want to find one of the Easter eggs, look at the face of the CD, right? The print that's actually on the CD or the album. If it's a vinyl, then in the center, right?
Okay.
And there's an eagle on that, right? The American, looks like the presidential eagle. And, you know, the flag on the presidential eagle, right, there's a lot in text. I changed that text to something else. Not the original. I never said a word about it. Nobody ever noticed. But I encourage you to translate what it says from Latin.
Okay,
There's your
yeah.
Easter egg.
I'm fascinated now. I will have to.
Yeah. So if you want to find one, and if you want to have a good laugh, and then you remember what was happening to the band at the time, and who we were in the middle of a lawsuit, and all kind of warring with
Right.
our old label, and put that on the record. Nobody ever noticed. It's
That's
there.
amazing. Right on. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely get on that, man. That's great. It's funny though. I never thought about the Metallica thing, so that's. I mean, I get why people would think that, but that never crossed my mind until you said it right there. So that's really funny. But all right, Zoltan. Well, I know obviously days are just days, man. They're whatever. But I've kept you for a while, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. I appreciate it so much, man. It really was a pleasure and an honor, getting to chat with you. I met you at a signing back when I was in middle school. I'm sure you don't remember, of course, but so this is our second time meeting. But getting to chat with you has been fantastic, man. But before I let you go, is there any news you can share about, when we can expect the next album? Any new U.S. tour dates, or just anything you want to share or plug before I let you go, man?
So we are in the studio right now. We're working on number 10. So the 10th record is underway. Obviously, touring coming up somewhere in May, we start to do our Europe tour. Then, probably the rest of the year touring, obviously. Hopefully nothing will interrupt it this time, And man, and we are on tour for
yes.
For the rest of the year. We have in the meantime, we have obviously the news around that we have a track that with DMX, and that's coming out on a re-release of the previous record. So Afterlife has a couple of tracks on it in a different version, like an acoustic version of a couple of tracks, and there's obviously the DMX track on it. So that's gonna come out. We just shot a video. A lot of people are involved in this whole process. It on the rap. That whole track took us, man. It was about 5 years of conversation that we wanted to do a track with DMX, right? And it took us about 5 years conversation, like logistics, social circumstances, and who's touring, who's doing what. It just wouldn't come together, right? We just couldn't pull it off. I mean, with the LL Cool J one, we did that song, right? What else we did? Well, as I said, the hip hop part, I write on hip hop beats. I mean, I listen to certain artists. There are certain artists that I really like, but generally I write on I love the beats, I love the rhythm, and I write on those beats. We did LL Cool J with Tech 9, and then the conversation was going on with about trying to do a track with DMX, and even after we had the track, it took another 2 years to jumping through hoops, clearing it with everybody involved, labels, publishers, producers. I mean, it was quite an undertaking, right? So finally, it was gonna be on this record, right? It was going to be an Afterlife, but we were not. We couldn't clear it yet to finish, and especially that X Pass. You know what I mean? It became incredibly complicated, and so it didn't make it on the record because legally it wasn't. It wasn't cleared yet completely, and so that's why it comes on the re-release, and it was belonging to that record. So that's coming out, and there are huge news that are also connected to this, that I rather that we reveal it when it comes.
Of course.
But there are some names and some incredible things are included and involved in this that not yet. It's time not yet, but it's coming in a month or so. Maybe dropping this thing, and can't wait. It's gonna be awesome. So that's on obviously, and while that is happening, we're doing that. We're doing the next record and gearing up for the next tour. The next tour, I'm gonna say as much as same thing there. We got some people that we wanted to be involved before. Some characters that I thought needed to be involved before. Finally, we got to the stage in our career that we could, right? So I would say that I think in every way, and visually and every way, people are gonna lose their mind where this is going. I mean, we're stepping into a new era with Five Finger Death Punch. Obviously, the Metallica tour is still going on as well. So basically, what we're doing, we're playing the stadiums with Metallica, and in between, obviously the Metallica stage, the donut it's very challenging to put anything on stage. Obviously, it's the middle of the stadium. You can't get there with a forklift. And so there's some. So that's not, that's their show. So it's not our players there to do some crazy stuff. But every other show that is ours, I think people are gonna be shocked. We're doing some crazy stuff. So that's the news. I know that everybody wanna hear more, but then I'm not gonna open the Christmas presents before Christmas.
Oh, yeah, just a little tease. Just a little tease.
I'm just excited because we accomplished a lot of big things, but some good times in 2024.
Absolutely, man. Cannot wait for it. Super excited, and just wish you the best of luck with everything, Zoltan. And again, excited to see PGF taking off and you involved with it and all this, and of course all the musical stuff. I'm definitely gonna try and get to one of these shows that makes sense for me, man. But I just appreciate it so much, and just appreciate you, Zoltan. Keep on rocking, keep on doing your thing, man.
Keep that shirt. That's a vintage, man.
I know. I got a couple.
It will worth something soon.
yes, of course. I don't know if I'll get rid of it though, even if it does become a lot. I need to keep it for myself.
Right.
All right, Zoltan. Take care, man.
All right,
appreciate you.
brother.